The Wallke X2 Pro e-bike may look like a typical full-size fat tire e-bike at a quick glance, but it has one major difference. It just so happens to fold in half, opening a world of possibilities when it comes to transportation.
Hey everyone, Micah here with Electrek, and today we're reviewing the Wallke X2. Let's check it out.
Let's start with a quick spec overview here. The Wallke X2 Pro has a 750 watt hub motor mounted in that sweet looking mag rear wheel. 750 watts is pretty par for the course when it comes to fat tire e-bikes. It's not overly powerful, but it's not low power either. That motor gets the Wallke X2 Pro up to about 22 miles an hour or 35 kilometers per hour on flat ground. Next, we've got a 510 watt hour removable battery housed in the frame, enough for between 15 to 30 miles or about 25 to 50 kilometers of riding, depending on your ride style, terrain, those sorts of things. Again, not huge, but not tiny either. Would I have liked more battery? Of course. But the modest battery here allows it to be hidden away in the frame, and it also keeps the price reasonable, something we'll talk about in a minute. The bike is not light at 69 pounds or about 32 kilos, but again, that's a middle-of-the-road figure for a big bike like this, and is more manageable than the 100-pound e-bikes I've tried, that's for sure. On the component side, we've got a full suspension setup, though I'll tell you right now that while the hydraulic suspension fork was pretty decent, the rear suspension wasn't nearly as nice. It's there, but it's not fancy. Those 4-inch fat tires combine with the full suspension though, to make for a pretty nice ride on unforgiving terrain. You actually get hydraulic disc brakes too, which is a nice feature to have for lower maintenance. There's of course pedal assist and throttle options, and you even get an 8-speed Shimano transmission, though it's just a Shimano Altus derailleur, so don't get too excited there. I will get a bit excited though about the included fenders and that giant rear rack, since both are great utility options that are fortunately included as standard equipment on this bike. At the Wallke X2 Pro's price of $1,599, or significantly less if Amazon gives you the coupon option, these mid-level components are just fine by me. The components aren't fancy, but they do help keep the price more than reasonable. We're talking about a full suspension fat tire bike here, folks. That ain't cheap.
The Wallke X2 isn't just a full suspension fat tire bike, it's also a folding bike.
It does not have folding handlebars, but it does fold in the middle and the pedals fold, which make the bike much shorter while maintaining approximately the same width as the unfolded bike.
So while it does fold up, it's still pretty big, honestly folded. I mean, if you were going to put this in the back of an SUV or a minivan, this would definitely fit a lot better because it's just not so bulky with the big wheels on one end and the handlebars up high. So this is going to fit in more places, but don't expect this to be like a tiny folding bike. This is still a colossal bike, even in folded position.
Colossal or not, you're absolutely going to fit this more easily into the back of an SUV or a crossover than a non-folding full-size fat tire e-bike. And you can probably get away without folding down one or both rows of the seats in the car too.
It's also not exactly light when it comes to unfolding it. Ugh. It's a big bike, and while the folding is a nice feature, it just doesn't make it that much smaller.
Ultimately, most people are going to spend way more time riding this e-bike than folding it, so let's focus on the ride. I mentioned that the rear suspension is not amazing, but it's just fine for casual riding, and the bike is tons of fun for exactly the type of riding fat tire e-bikes are meant for, which is basically conquering anything in your path. You can use it for off-road trail riding, or stick to the city where it will glide over most potholes that would wreck a typical folding bike's wheel. The speed is higher than a typical Class 2 e-bike, giving you a bit more fun on the street, though I wouldn't have minded even more speed if they could have swung it. With just a 510 watt-hour battery though, the low 20s of mile per hour is probably the sweet spot to ensure you still get decent range. All in all, I think the Wallke X2 Pro has an interesting value proposition. On the one hand, it's got good specs for the price, including nice parts like hydraulic disc brakes, full suspension, and of course that folding frame. On the other hand though, Wallke isn't as proven of a brand as heavyweights like Rad or Juiced. And so even though you're getting arguably more features and components for your money, who's to say if the service and support can match the heavyweights? And then again, there's that one area where it can't match the industry standard fat tire bikes, which is the smaller battery. If you have your heart set on a full-size and full suspension fat tire bike though that can fit in your car, this is probably one of the best options on the market to fulfill that need.
Thanks for watching everyone. We hope you enjoyed that review of the Wallke X2. If you did, why don't you give this video a thumbs up? and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of our future electric vehicle videos. We'll see you here next time.